you doing? What are you doing? You're a good boy, Bobo. Good boy. Sit. Good boy. Alright, so driver's side rear is on. Pretty much I just measured where this one was, marked it. And then of course, same thing back here. Just measured on the other side where it was at and marked it. Fit them both in here. Of course, we were in the same issue with the gap. But all in all, of course you can't tell too much like this, but I'm covered in the back. So that's all set. Now we're going to start on the fronts. All right, so the back right and the back left are done. And then on the right front, that one's on. This one was a little weirder. You're going to see some gaps and stuff in between there. That's going to be taken care of whenever I do the heat up and put the molding on. That's all going to be taken up. Apparently you can use a heat gun, and where you've got some gaps, just heat it up and then press it in right there and then cool it, and it'll adhere to the body line. And on this side here, I just got this one on. I've just got to make a final cut to give me a little bit more clearance between the two. And what's going to happen, these you can see the problem with the front is, unlike the rear is more on a straight line basically, whereas on the front it starts at a straight and then look at the curve. It curves in. So that kind of, it's almost like warping the flare. But see, the reason it's staying out like this right now is, you see the gap right there? I'm just using these to hold them in. This is the temporary setup. I'm actually getting some actual, like some metal. They're not riv nuts for metal. They're like riv nuts for plastic fender flares. And it's meant to go in. It kind of looks like a wall anchor, basically, is what it is. And it goes in and it basically mushrooms behind the panel. But these will actually have bolts and nuts, so it'll cinch it up really tight onto the fender. And so when I get those, that's when I'll heat that up, and I'll go one by one and install them. And as I heat that, I'll cinch it up and suck it up tight. Then I'll take it all back off, put the seam or the seal on it. And so you can see how these twist inward on the front. And that's just following the contour of the more pinched nose of the Saturn. So we're getting there. If you guys are ever interested in getting these exact flares, just go to the Clinched website. And it's the Nancy Sam 10, new school, 10 centimeters or 3.9 inch, so almost 4 inch. Just to let you know. More of an idea how I'm going to make this kind of go more in line with this like that. Once I clean up inside of here, I'm going to just take some sandpaper or a small, real thin file, and I'm just going to side file where it needs to be filed to kind of even up the gap. So inside here, both on this side and on this side, I'm going to take some roll pins, and they sell these as a kit at Harbor Freight, and they're about yay long. Yay long. So on inside here, right at the corner here, I'm going to epoxy in roll pin on each side. And then I'm going to find the size roll pin that's smaller that'll fit inside those two. And I'm going to epoxy it on one side. so that when I take this off and I bring it back together, I'll slide the roll pin, which will be down here in black, into the larger orifice roll pin here, and then I'll bolt these back down, and that should kind of even this thing up, kind of hold them up together. And you won't really be able to see it too easily because it's black and it's a thinner diameter roll pin. You're not going to really be able to see it, but if you can, so what? It's meant to be as a stabilization piece to kind of even it out. But that's pretty much what I got planned on that. Okay, so full description of what I plan to do. So these are just roll pins that you can buy a set of these at Harbor Freight for like $6. Roll pin assortment. I got the larger assortment so I could have all the different sizes in here. And so what I plan to do is I'm going to take this one, and I think these come in, I can look in this other assortment I have to see if it's got half sizes, but I plan to cut this in half, and just so envision this as being one. And then inside here, inside the lip here, I'm going to basically, well, if I can keep it from slipping through my hands here, I'm going to do it from the outside here because I keep dropping it. But I'm going to slide this in here like that. I don't know if you can see it too well. But on the outside, it'll be in there about halfway like this. And I'm going to cut it flush with this. And then I'll repeat on this other side. Okay? So then what I'll do is I'll take a smaller roll pin, and one that will actually obviously slide into here. I'll epoxy it in here so that when this is all said and done, half this is sticking out and only half is going to look like that basically. The other side of the flare will have this epoxied into it opposite, so that when I put the flare on, I slide this into this side here, and it should give me some stability as to, you know, so that they'll sit and match up evenly. Okay, so it'll bring this up here and kind of give it something to rest on. It'll rest on each other evenly like that. That's my goal, at least. All right, so now I've got them cut in half, and so now this part will slide into here like that. Of course, once it's into the fender flare. And so now there's epoxy in here, and of course I'll cut them in half. Then I'll epoxy this part inside the fender, the flare, and then this part on the opposite side. And of course this will be turned around and it'll slide into the slot. Alright, so we take a little bit of the JB Quick, those, or JB Weld rather. Now it's a little cold right now, so the set time's going to increase. So you just got to put these things in here and then just let them set. But I've taken off this back one. Of course marked it before I took it off. And I'm getting those different set screws coming for it. They're like a riv nut. It's a metal riv nut, but it's meant for plastic. And I've got some hardware coming and stuff. And so, but this is what I intended to do. So I'm just JB welding that piece in there. And then on the opposite side, I'll be JB welding one of these in there. And so that when they're both hardened, this one will, as I put it back on to rivet it in, I'll just slide this over to here, and it will hopefully bring those two pieces together and level. At least that's what I'm going for. So I think I'm going to do just this one and see what that gets me, and then go from there. And the fact that it's black, it's not that you're not going to be able to see it, but I've put it on the lower portion here, so it's not going to be up here on the top side. Okay, so it's going to be on the, not up top, but on the lower portion down here. So again, not, you will be able to see it, but it won't be as obvious, I guess you could say. So I was going to order, you know, you need hardware. I'm going to basically buy some, like what I said, metal riv nuts made specifically for plastic. And so I'm trying to keep this hole as small as possible. In hunting for these things, you not only have to have, and this is the old plastic rivet that I pulled out of there. But if you look at the head diameter, when you look at these clenched flares, this head diameter, if I can shove this back in here, is just about perfect to fit in the recess of the clenched flare. Anything larger and it's going to ride up around the shelf here, the shoulder. And so the ones that I had in mind from Fab 9 Tuning, and I'll show a picture here, just for dress up, I was just going to get black. And of course you'd see the white writing on it. I don't know if I was a big fan of that or not. I just wanted some kind of basic hardware. And you got to be mindful too, when you get the hardware, you got to make sure that it's stainless or it won't corrode and turn into, you know, a bunch of rust pockets around these things and just look terrible. But the head of this thing, the ones from Fab 9 were too big once they put the washer and stuff on there. And so the goal was to find one with this size head, and that didn't require me to drill that much larger of a hole. So I went through and McMaster car, I believe is the name of it. It's like it's an awesome site, and it measures every single thing that you're hoping to get some specs on. I mean, length, width, diameter, circumference. I mean, they're just really good at doing that. And so I did find the metal riv nuts that are made specifically for plastic, and then I also selected some round-headed Allen bolts to insert into there. But the important thing was, as you can see, in areas like here, I couldn't go too much bigger because then there's a plastic lip underneath here, and the riv nut's going to expand obviously to close up behind this thing to support it. So you've got to have the structure behind here that allow that mushrooming process to happen. And like this one here is riding pretty close, so I got to maintain these same holes here when I put on the rib nuts and stuff. If I have to drill a hole larger, which I believe I will have to, then you got to be careful that it doesn't skew a whole lot of what you had before when you had them with just the plastic rivets. So that's pretty much just the caution. So I have this one epoxied in here, the female, and then the male is epoxied here, waiting to dry. Of course, it's cold, like I said. So we'll let these set, and I'm going to do these one at a time, or at least this one first, and see if it works. By then, I'll have in the hardware from McMaster, and I'll be able to drill the holes and get these things semi-set. I'm going to drill the holes, see if this little edit works, and then I'll pull it back off and then put in the seal. Go ahead and get the seal on there. And I think too, what I was thinking about, where these two pieces come together, I'm doing this to just give it, instead of it riding way up here, it's going to come back this way and get more even or more in sync with the curvature of this. But the gap is still going to be, as you can see, this thing curves in. So I'm going to clean up the gap as even as I can, but I thought maybe on one side, since I've had to cut so much off of the ones that I got, and these supplied for all four, so I'll have some extra. But I'm thinking about just taking a section and just putting it here as well. And that will actually give like a lip that hangs over and covers up the imperfection of the cut in between the two pieces. So that's a possibility. Of course, we can just look and see how that goes, and then if it looks good and it makes sense, then I'll do the rest. And just as a stupid thing, this is one of several inserts for the HKS blow-off valve, the super sequential one, the real one. Okay, so I'm going to put that in there. I think I watched a couple videos on the chirpy sound instead of just the. I want me a little. But anyway, I'll be putting that on. That's simple. Okay, so the ongoing riv nut issue. I'm going to spare you the story. I know I get long-winded. This tool, if you go to mcmastercar.com, and this tool number, Robert Nancy Henry Tom -10 kit, it comes with the upper body, lower body, and it comes with two separate sets of bolts. There's 2 bolts in each, and I started to get pissed because I had bought these bolts. I was told they were 10/32 bolts, and they are, but for some reason they didn't fit in the riv nut. They would screw in maybe about 4 or 5 threads and then get hard. Couldn't understand it. The little bolt size guide that I have, it screwed into there, told me it was them. Anyway, long story short, these are worthless. The kit comes with these bolts here, and there's 2 of these, and there's 2 of those in there. So I'm not sure what the deal is. I'm not really bolt savvy, anything like that. But anyway, if you're going to use these riv nuts right here, this is Charlie Paul Baker 2, 1032, obviously for 10/32, 320-10, okay? And there's 10 in each bag, depending on how many you have. Now, these are specifically made to go into like plastic, but they're metal, very strong, okay? And, you know, I told you I had put in the plastic rivets, and that was just to mount the thing. I'm going to have to drill each hole just a hair bigger to accommodate these, but the fit should be tight as it presses into the hole. And then I also ordered these. They come in a pack of 10. Frank Baker Henry Apple 10 Frank 016 Union Sam Apple, and I don't know, backwards C T 103 1363. And these are the sockets that fit into the socket type. It's an Allen head, basically. I don't think you can see it in the package. There we go. So it's an Allen head. Now, the only thing is the hole size that I'm going to be putting these into for the flare. So that's the plastic rivet. And this is just a piece of ABS plastic that I had laying around that I was testing the flare on. Of course, you can see it flares out pretty good on here. And this is the other one that I used the flare tool on. And of course, it flares out pretty good too. And you'll put this for the fender. You'll put that in the hole on the fender. Right there, obviously. And then you'll flare it out. Then you'll put on the fender flare and then put the bolt through here. The problem with this is if you go to this blank hole, you put this in, you can still see a little light through there. Yeah, it's hard to see, but I think that's too little. I'm going to get some washers and then I'm going to paint them black. I'm actually going to paint these black too. Although they are black, apparently these aren't going to stand the test of time. And I don't want to have a bunch of rusty bolt heads all the way around the flares. So I'll paint them both black to help offset that. And so that's pretty much what we're doing there. But to guide you, the way you use this tool, because they've got the little directions on here, some of them are worn away, I was able to figure it out. You basically thread, you put the tool on here like that, and you're going to thread the Allen head into the riv nut. So once you get it all the way threaded down, of course now it's sitting nice and tight, you'll put the riv nut into the hole. Okay, so you're going to thread that in first, put the riv nut into the hole. Then you're going to take a 7/8 inch wrench, okay, and you're going to put it on this lower body, okay, and then you're going to take a 11/16 socket. So you're not going to be holding this at all, this Allen head. This is just to thread through. What's going to be turning is this top body. And so the goal is going to be hold this firm, don't let this move, and then in a clockwise fashion, you're going to turn this. And I was getting ready for a fight, okay, because I thought, wow, this is going to be hard to do. Man, it went on like butter. Very easy. Probably took no more than 4 or 5 turns, and it was done. So, and it doesn't have to be super tight. The goal is to get it to flare on the back of there. And so it doesn't have to be super, super tight. And then once you're done, you just, of course, take the socket off, take your wrench off, and then you unthread the Allen head here. That's all you do. And it went it went smooth as heck. It was awesome. But anyway, that's what we're going to be doing. We'll be knocking that out tomorrow. I was so glad because I had tried a few different things, and every time I tried it, the one thing that was keeping me from permanently mounting those flares on was getting a riv nut solution. One that could be used with plastic, one that was not much bigger in hole diameter than that plastic rivet that I was using, and it's not too much bigger, because in some areas where some of those holes are drilled on the fenders, they're pretty close to the body, the seam, like the cut in the fender, and so I couldn't have them much larger than that. So they're not much larger than that. I went ahead and took a speed bit and taped off the hole size that I'm going to need, and that's where I'll stop when I'm drilling it in. And it's not very big at all. Again, it's not very much bigger than the plastic riv nut. Don't let the size fool you. I'm just trying to get the hole size big enough to accommodate this part right here. As I slide it in, it gets nice and tight because this is flared out somewhat already. And then, of course, riv nutting it does the job the rest of the way. I mean, it did great. And once I get that done, then I'm going to be able to put these little devices in here. I did it already on a test piece when I was the first one, and the JB Weld, which you can see here, it didn't hold too good to the plastic. So I got some specific plastic JB Weld to help hold it. Now I'm just hoping that the plastic JB Weld will hold on to this metal. If not, maybe I can mix a dab of the plastic along with the regular riv, I'm stuck on riv nuts, the regular JB Weld, and that mix might be enough to kind of join the two together and stuff. But the reason I have to wait till I get it on there is because there is some curvature to the two pieces coming together, and I need to make sure that curvature is maintained when I put these pieces. So I'm literally going to have to get them up on there first, take the wheel off so I can get back behind it, glue these in there, and then I'll have to like pinch them down with a couple little bracket holders and stuff like I have right here. I'll have to hold them in. But it held firmly enough until I really lifted up on it, and then it just popped right off. So, but it should still be a viable fix. Anyway, update short. So here is one of the riv nuts installed, and I'm going to show you real quick. Man, it went on like super easy. So I've got this other one. Of course, I marked off on my bit how far to go in. And of course, I enlarged each hole. Okay. And so what's happening is I'm taking the riv nut, and as I press it in, it's a pretty tight fit. And once it's in there, of course, I put the tool on. And of course, that's the tool there. You take that, and you're going to screw it into the hole here. And at this point, you're just screwing this Allen head into it, okay? This part here, this secondary part, is a counter rotating thread. So to tighten it, you go left, and loosen it, you go right. So right now I'm just screwing, this whole body's turning, but I'm literally just putting this Allen into that riv nut is all I'm doing. Okay, so you get it in there till it's relatively tight. You don't need super tight, nothing like that. Okay, and then what you do is you're going to take the bottom portion is a 7/8, so you take a 7/8 wrench. Let me back out of here a little bit. And you're going to put it on here. And there, I can't do this with both hands, obviously. Without both hands, I should say. But then you take your 11/16 socket and you tighten it. While you hold this one, do not let this one turn. You tighten this one only. And you'll feel it. It feels like it's not doing anything, and then it gets tight. That's where the head has mushroomed out from behind. So it goes on like butter. It's really easy. And then when you're done tightening it, it should look like this. Remember, we were turning it clockwise. That's to install the riv nut. Okay. So now that it's installed, it's nice and tight. You'll use your Allen wrench here to loosen this to get it off and out of the riv nut. And then, of course, now it's on there nice and solidly. As you can see, that little gap behind here. I've debated whether I use washers or not in here. I could just leave them like that. The hole isn't that big. I mean, you can see a little bit of the hole. Maybe you can't. Maybe that's... No, you can't. So this might be just good enough to leave on here without the washers. I'm still going to paint these so they don't corrode. But I'm going to have that rubber seal going all the way up here. And then once I get this on here, I can put the heat gun on here. And as I give it a little bit of heat, I can tighten this down more, and it would more closely contour or follow this right here. It would melt to it. And at that point, they said in the clinch direction, excuse me, have like a wet rag. So as soon as it gets done bending, go ahead and put that wet rag on there. All right, well, I got the bug that was in my mouth out. But anyway, it should immediately cool it down into that formation. So that's kind of the way they describe doing it. All right, so all the riv nuts are in. And of course, they're going around the perimeter of each tire. Fender, I should say. They were pretty easy to install once you had the right tool. I looked online, YouTube, and all that stuff, and you could make your own tool, and that's all fine. But I was having a hard time finding the exact threaded nut to make my own tool. McMaster-Carr stepped in. I got with them. I worked with them. I mean, it was something simple, but I mean, I needed their help to find out. But anyway, this one back here is on. I think now that this seal is on here, and it kind of helps take up some of the indentation from these body lines here, I'm gonna probably hide this gap by putting one here too. I test fitted already. The gap, you know, hindsight, I probably could have tightened that gap up, but it still wouldn't have been perfect. It wouldn't have been completely straight and stuff. So I would have probably done some beautification thing anyway. There's that little piece in there I was talking about, holding the fender to where, not only so that air doesn't get up under here and whip it up, but to add some rigidity to it and some continuity to it too, so that it's round. So I've got that on there. I did get some stainless steel bolts, painted them black with some washers, and I think it looks pretty good. I still got to put the fronts on, and of course on this side I haven't done that little mod yet, so you can see how it's not even. It sticks up to where it isn't even. This needs to come up like that. Okay, and when I do, it should look pretty good. And then I'm gonna put that seal over here too. So this side has the seal. Like I said, I'm pretty pleased with the look of it. Next, I'm going to get the fronts done, put the seals on that. All the riv nuts, of course, are on over here. And then once I get these put on and test fit and all that stuff, I'll take them back off, take the body kit off, take the blue tape off, put the same red 3M tape all around here, which is what'll pretty much replace the blue tape. I mean, I've got them bolted on really well. I probably don't even need the blue tape on there. I just didn't want to be driving down the road and hear something, look behind me and see a few vehicles running over my back bumper, so or my rear wings west lip kit. So we'll get that taken off. Paint's going to be a little bit, you guys, you know, job and all that stuff. I have a friend that told me a full paint change on this thing would be $2,500. And of course, I told you I want to go with that reddish orange. Top, I'm going to have like a gunmetal gray, something close to match the refinished carbon fiber hood. That kind of, I don't know, what is it? A chocolate kind of color? I don't know. And then I'll more than likely get these powder coated the same color. So, yeah. I think it'll look good. The grayish brown of the, or whatever color you want to call it, of the refinished carbon fiber hood with the top and the orangish red, I think that's going to look real good. I don't know if I'll leave these that color or if I'll get them, I don't know. You know, I've told you I'd do some certain things here and there. When I was doing and I always change my mind. When I was putting the fender flares on the front here, I had to use the heat gun to heat it up to mold it a little bit better, and I kind of warped one of them. It's this long section here. If I hold it up to the light, you can see the warpage on there. Now what I'm going to do is reheat it, and I'm going to put a glove on under my hand, and underneath here I'm going to work that little deal out. It gets kind of soft and it's very malleable, and all you got to do when you do that is immediately have a spray bottle of water so that you can cool it down immediately so it'll hold the shape, because if you don't, when it cools down, it's just going to go back to its former shape. And outside of that, I think that's it. Guys, I know I told you that I was going to do the Unichip next. Well, a couple things. One, and I don't want to talk bad about anybody or anything until I fully got the full story, but there was a guy at Unichip named Jack Friedman. There's only one United States dealer, and at the time may still be up north too, but his name's Jack Friedman. Well, initially when I purchased the Unichip, I had a lot of good back and forth with the guy. And my understanding is, unless you're a dealer and you buy that like license, which means if you do get where you're a seller, installer, tuner, they have some criteria where you have to have a shop with a dyno, you have to adhere to certain standards and stuff like that. I'm not there yet. My goal is to learn it completely on my car and not only offer it to other Saturn enthusiasts, but there's another line of vehicles that I want to apply it to. But I don't want to even get into that unless I fully understand the operation on this one. Well, one of the initial setups when you're doing the Unichip tuning is it says go to this reference, pick a wiring schematic, download it. And you basically use that. The Unichip will show you which wires to tap into for which inputs and where to send the outputs and so forth. Well, the Saturn, there's not one for the Saturn. So Jack Friedman quit, whatever. I don't know the story on that, but he's not there. A guy named Tony Woest, W-O-E-S-T, has taken over. And this was during when COVID really hit last year or early before COVID hit. He, I got in contact with him and said, hey man, I've been back and forth with Jack Friedman. He hadn't contacted me lately, hadn't been answering my questions. I was just asking simple questions to be answered so I get my mind wrapped on what do I need for this? Do I need to be a dealer for us to progress on a car that doesn't have a wiring schematic like the Saturn? Or is it like when you install an aftermarket engine manager, which I've done the Electromotive Tech 2, you basically, it tells you which port on the aftermarket management to hook up the 5-volt reference of whatever sensor so yeah, I can do that. It's not a problem. If that's all it is, and that's what's holding me up, I can do that on this because I've got the owner's manual and it does tell you which one to hook up. But when you get all that done and you go to program it, one of the first steps in the programming sequence is to select the wiring schematic. Again, I don't know if I can just bypass that. These are the questions I have, and those are the answers I need. So that's the holdup. So in lieu of getting hold of this guy, Jack Friedman, I reached out to Australia. Apparently Unichip or Dastech is big in Australia and New Zealand. I reached out to some guys in the UK. The guys in the UK were a little bit more friendly, a little bit more open. Instead of giving me generic answers on stuff like that, they were willing to help. But they run a busy shop. I mean, they're putting them in on all kinds of different makes and models themselves. So I basically asked him some questions and it kind of fell flat on its face. I don't know if they can't answer because it would conflict or be an issue from, Unichip Europe to Unichip US, or I don't know. But so anyway, the guy Tony West, I got in touch with him. Oh yeah, we're redoing the website, really gonna change up things, and don't worry, we'll get you handled. you know So he says, well, first step is to, here, I'm going to send you this diagram or this connector um, illustrations. Go through these, and if you don't find your exact one, find one that's close. There wasn't one that was close. I mean, I guess there was one that, it was close, I guess, as close as it could be. And I wrote him back after I looked it over and thought it out. I said, well, out of all of them, this is the closest one, but it's not here. Here's some actual pictures of my connectors on my PCM. Will this help? That was 3 months ago. Haven't really bothered him yet because of COVID and all the stuff going on. And plus, he may be actively working to help me. I don't know. But I've since wrote him twice now and said, hey, just checking in. Any news? And I haven't heard back, because what would be easy for me, at least, would be for him to say, hey, yeah, I'm working on it, man. I think I got a solution for you. Or, man, I'm pulling up nothing. Or, man, I need more time. I ain't hearing nothing. So I hope I haven't spent, well, the good news is, if that's the case, then my investment in this is really low. I just need an answer to the question: if I have to have a wiring schematic pulled from a Dastech set, a file, as long as I hook up the wires like I know they need to be hooked up, can I bypass that, hook up all the wires, fire up the laptop, run it, and then make changes and see what my changes made? Can I do that? Can I do it without a wiring schematic, downloaded from their specific site? I just need that answer. I can do a standalone engine management. I've done it before. So no wonder these guys don't have more of a following. They're not, I get the feeling that unless you're willing to commit to a massive shop with a dyno and all this other stuff, they're not willing to work with you on the next level. You don't get past buying the thing, basically, in a few simple questions. At least that's the impression I got from Jack Friedman, because he pretty much said as much. Well, I've helped you as much, and I can help you with simple questions, but this gets beyond. I don't know if that was true or not, but I would imagine that if it was, Tony would echo that, and he hasn't yet. If I own Dastech or Unichip, whatever you want to call it, and I was trying to get a massive foothold, I wouldn't so much restrict you to having a dyno in a shop and stuff. I help you as much as I could, because if I can get your name out there, you can sell more product. And then at some point, if you want to clamp it down, once the product gets, virility and, and everybody's hearing about it, and it's a real simple, and then you can snap it down. But they're not helping themselves by doing this. So I don't know if Tony needs help. I don't know if he means to help me, but he's, for what few customers, again, you don't hear about Unichip. I was hoping to help that situation. I'm not saying I can get on there and mass, make this thing turn into a multi-million-dollar, but I can get the word out, and I would be vocal about it. I've got a few car clubs that I'm part of that I could get the word out on that, and it's super cheap to invest in. The tunability looks really easy. So that's where I'm at with the Unichip. So in the meantime, at some point I'm gonna have to do something. I'm gonna have to. The thing is, again, there's not that many people that you can reach out to, and like I said, I've done so in Australia and in England and stuff like that. I think it's also big in would it be Taiwan or Cambodia or something like that. And the language barrier I'm there, I'm sure would be a problem, but I can try to reach out to them too. But the thing is, it ends up being frustrating because I want to move along. I've got a person lined up for the metal head gasket. Once I get that done, I'll put the bigger injectors in there, take the veggie fuel pressure regulator out of there, run the bigger injectors, run 20 pounds of boost, Bob's your uncle. I mean, the only thing I'm worried about at that point, and I do have dual valve springs, I'm going to put those in, is, it's a floating cylinder block, too much pressure. I don't know. I don't know too many people that have ran 20 pounds in these things long term. This is a street car. I'm not looking to make it a full-on drag, so I might go up to 15, see what happens, and then go from there. But I can't go past 10 or 12 right now because I'm maxing out my injectors. Okay, so I can't go any bigger in injectors because I can't go in with this tuning system and pull out cold start fuel. And fuel, I can't do that. It'll run like crap. It'll foul out my spark plugs, all this stuff. So, but anyway, in the meantime, since this is what I'm currently working on, I'm trying to finish that out. Hang with me. At some point, we'll get something. If not, I'm just going to have to either, one, research another standalone. My goal for standalone, I think you guys know I don't want the check engine light on. The Unichip keeps that from happening. You run full standalone, you take away every parameter of the engine. The computer is no longer seeing parameters, but you need the computer for other things to operate. Is there a way to get around some of that? I'm sure. I don't know. But I'm on track. Plus, like I said, I've got goals to sell these things, install them even, and more than likely tune them. If I can sell enough of them, there's a shop up the road, a 2-bay shop. I might want to go that way and open a shop and do tuning and installation and all that stuff. So, long-term goals versus short-term goals, and I can't seem to get over this hump of just talking to somebody. So, but anyway, I'll get these fender flare things done. After that, you saw how noisy it was in the car on the drive-along video last. The door panels are off, the rear seats are out. Those are going to get leathered. I'm doing the leather inserts on the door panels, and I'm doing leather on the seats themselves. That's next up if I don't hear anything from them. So, yeah, baby steps right now, sadly, but that's where we're at.